Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Empowered Men Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Piao, and we are back better than ever. I've been getting so many texts, DMs, emails, messages just asking when the next episode is dropping, and well, here it is. And it's a special one because today I have two amazing guests popping on today's podcast episode, and they are two sisters that are doing some incredible work in the community and are just amazing human beings to be around. So please give it up for my two guests, Stevie and Tay. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
First woman ever on the Empowered Men Podcast.
Yes, we are so excited for that. Claiming it. Yeah.
It's amazing.
We secretly love that we are the first women on this podcast.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, won't be the last though. I can tell you that we're making some changes here. I know I initially said that we're gonna just have men, but I just thought about it. I was like, fuck, why not? You know, you are two powerful sisters and two powerful women that are doing some great work in the world, and
two powerful men by our side. So, you know, it's important to share this story because I know the men will resonate, but mostly the women will too. And especially if you're in a conscious partnership, I think this content needs to be put out there, and we're all in it together.
I honestly think it's so important for men, obviously, to connect in community, create safe space for each other, women to do the same. And you can see so many beautiful examples of that and movements starting, but we all really need to rise together. And in order to do that, we need to have conversations together to gain, better perspective, better understand how we can make each other feel safe and seen and supported. So I love that we're like being the bridge and merging and all going, let's do this.
Yes.
Amazing. So I guess before we get started, obviously I probably want you to, I need you guys to introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you passionate about?
You go, Stevie.
Who am I? Well, I'm firstly and foremost a mama. I'm a wifey. I like to call myself a hype woman for hire. Like I'm equal parts hippie, equal parts hood. Like there's so many parts of myself that I love and own and celebrate. But I like to say, like, just to give a bit of context, that like I'm super, super like self-development is my freaking jam. Like I eat it for breakfast. And I love all that hippie shit. Like I get off on the woo-woo, but I bring this certain kind of flavor. And that's my hood element because I can go a bit hood sometimes, but I like it because it keeps it real and honest and authentic and also inclusive of more people are part of this conversation of health and wellness. I know, Taylor and I, we do what we do, and we initially started what we do in terms of our events and workshops out here in Southwest Sydney because we're like, I'm so sick and tired of not having this information accessible to our kind of people. And like representation is so important, being, half Samoan, half Australian. So we really wanted to open the conversation up to a broader audience and say like, it's not this complicated, out of reach, unattainable thing. Everyone can live a happy, fulfilled, healthy lifestyle. It's just about choices and making them consistently every day.
And we've been on this journey for, gosh, how long now? Like 5-6 years. It's been a process. And, we haven't stayed the same throughout the journey. Like, we're constantly changing and growing and evolving, which I think is a really beautiful thing. That's obviously led us to this place. But a lot of people look at us now, like if you just jump on our pages now, like a lot of people say, oh, that's not really achievable. Like they look too perfectly curated, or it's just not realistic. Yeah. But if you actually knew us from like the start of our journey and where we've come from to where we are now, like everyone can relate to our story because we were very, very, mainstream mindset, had a toxic lifestyle, popped a pill for every ill, relied on the media for our news. Like we're so opposite to how we live today. And so that's why I guess we have empathy when, people come to us and they're just starting out on their journey. Like, we were literally where you were at 5 years ago. And this lifestyle is really only very new to us now. Majority of our life was, we lived a very toxic lifestyle. So when people actually look into our story and get to know us rather than just taking what they see on social media, because we all know there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes of social media. When you actually come to our events and have a conversation with us, you realize, oh, okay, wow, like they're actually really relatable, and so much of their story I resonate with because it's my story too. So there's so much that's gone on. I feel like we can't intro ourselves in like a couple of minutes, but I will say we are a stand for something different, and that can trigger some people sometimes, but we say that the teachers, your triggers are your teacher, and if you choose to lean into it, you can learn so much from situations or people that trigger the F out of you. And we love that we are raising our voices for something different and something that goes against the status quo, and something that really gets people to start to think about everything, not just one certain topic, which I like to talk about, which is vaccines, but everything. Like, just question everything and question what you have been raised to believe, question what you've been programmed to believe is true, because there is so much truth when you actually start to, find out, like, who were we before all of this, like, programming and colonization and everything came into play, and get back to our roots is what we always say, and come back to the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we all are really is honestly love. Like, that is who we are.
Massive.
Can I? Yeah. I was just going
to Lewis isn't going to get anything in. We're just going to keep talking.
Seriously. This is the most unprofessional podcast ever. Let's just go for it.
I'm here to set up the mic. Say, we're huge advocates of addressing the root cause and not just masking symptoms. And you can apply that to any area, any context in your life. And also taking radical responsibility for your freaking life, your health, your happiness. Especially now we are parents. Intergenerational trauma is like, it's my jam. Tay, obviously, vaccines, that's her mountain to move. But for me, it's so much about that programming, those beliefs, that intergenerational trauma that we need to start addressing in order to break the cycles. So that is like hot in my heart, and it's why I do what I do. We both have online coaching programs as well, to create that safe space for women online. I
guess just sorry to butt in.
No, go.
I guess for people that don't know what intergenerational trauma is, could you explain what it is?
Basically, it's any grief, unattended wound, pain that you've experienced and not had the tools in order to address and self-express the emotion, which is just energy emotion that comes with it, that is suppressed and shoved and hidden inside of your body. And we can go down the genetic side of this in terms of your biology and how your beliefs shape your biology, like on a cellular level, but as well as your programming and mindset. So from 0 to 7 children, we are programming their subconscious mind. So whatever beliefs and programming we have carried on from our parents, whether that be scarcity, survival mode, stories like it's not, the world isn't a safe place, I am not enough. So it continually repeats the pattern and the cycle unless we have the awareness and the skill and the tools to break that cycle. And we can go into how different ways you can do that. But it is super, super important for us to not let our children carry shit that is not theirs to carry.
And when you understand what it is, like it's clear as day for us now, like clear as day, like where this shit that we feel like we carry has come from. And we look at our mum, and then we look at our nan, and then we look at our nan's mum. Like, it's that lineage of all the trauma that was constantly repeated and passed down and passed down and passed down. And then it's come to us, and we're like, this isn't, like, there's something up here. Like, this isn't how it should be.
I'll give one example. So for me, I really have realized a huge, like, piece of my own puzzle in how I show up in the world, what triggers the F out of me, where I'm self-sabotaging, is this whole story that I am not safe. I'm inherently not safe in this world, and it's not safe to be seen. So, and that comes from my mum, my nan, my great-grandma, because they grew up in a world of domestic violence, physical abuse, mental health issues like disorders, having breakdowns, being put in psychiatric care,
being separated as a family,
foster care, like so much trauma, so many in childhood. So that happened to my great gran and my nan, same thing. Then my mum, same thing. So you can see how, and especially being in the womb, this is another part of the story. Being in the womb, my mum was never felt safe with what was happening to my nan at that time, same as my great grandma and us as well. So there's so much trauma that's carried down and passed down through generations that has just gone unhidden, unspoken. So now with the awareness,
under the rug.
with the awareness we have, it's up to us to, now we know better, to do better. And far out, it's a responsibility, and it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Oh my God.
Once you know what you know,
easy.
This year,
but it has to be done, because we're not passing it on to the next generation. We're not passing it on to our kids anymore. We have the awareness, and it's fucking hard at times to actually be in this work, but it's worth it.
And that is taking radical responsibility.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about as well. Obviously, like when you do this type of work, and there's people that have their own ideals and they go with the mainstream, and they hear a lot of people saying one thing and they just go with it because that's the mass majority people saying. How do you stay in your power? How do you keep doing what you're doing? Like what keeps you going? There's a lot of people out there that have ideas, but they don't act upon it because they don't have the tools that you two have got. And I guess, how do you do it?
We've been raised by parents who have always told us, you can do anything that you set your mind to. Anything that you want to do, you can go out and do it. And prime example is our dad, who came from the islands from nothing. Both of our parents came from nothing, but our dad especially came over from the islands, stopped in New Zealand first and then came to Australia. Couldn't speak English, didn't have any money, didn't know anybody, and he just put himself out there because he knew that there had to be something else rather than just him working on the plantation and giving everything over to his family in the church. And so our dad has always, been a go-getter. Both of our parents have worked so hard to get to where they are today. And from basically nothing, my dad started his own business and still has a business today that is very successful. He's a concreting business. And so we've grown up around that, obviously. And we've always had the belief in us that no matter what, like, you can do anything that you set your mind to. And we've always just been like, we're not the type of people also to sit back and wait for someone else to do something. Like if we see that something should be done or can be done, we're like, oh, we'll just go do it ourselves. Like we don't rely on other people. Like, oh, we'll just go do it. Like, oh, we'll throw the party, or we'll put the event on, or we'll just pull people together, or we'll start a new mum's group. Like we just are doers like that, and we thrive off that. And so obviously that's a big part of why we, just keep going and do what we do and stay in our power. But also because we've done the work of, addressing our wounded ego and understanding when the ego speaking and the soul speaking, and, when, how to really protect your energy in this arena, because it's not fucking easy taking arrows 24/7. And that's literally what we do. We take arrows 24/7, because I said we trigger a lot of people, but there's a lot of people, that are coming from scarcity and fear, and have severe toxicity inside of themselves that is speaking for them, and it's not actually their truth, and they want to project all of this hate and bitterness onto us, which we know is not our stuff, it's theirs. But we understand how to fully process whatever emotions that we're feeling, because at one point this year I've definitely was guilty of suppressing my real emotions. Like at one point I was feeling really fucking sad, and I was like, nope, it's okay, I'm all right, it's okay. And I was suppressing that. And then of course, what happens when you suppress an emotion over and over again, sooner or later you explode. It's like, rah, and it all comes out. Persist. So what I've really learnt that helps me get through this is actually feel my fucking feelings. And if I want to be sad, I'm going to be sad. And it doesn't mean like, the world's ending for me and I'm going to give up and quit. It just means I just have to feel my feelings right now, because my human feelings are coming out, and I'm really hurt. Like I'm hurt by the people talking shit about me and my family 24/7. I'm hurt by the media constantly targeting and attacking and ambushing me. I'm hurt by, close family who've literally just like, they know us, but then they see what's on the media and they've bought into that whole story and have like completely dismissed or like attacked us for that too. Like there's so many things that have gone on and I've really let myself feel sad and upset and hurt. But at the same time, we're allowed to pivot and process those emotions in a healthy way so that we can bring ourselves back out of that and connect us back to our truth, which is love, and stay in our light, and also make sure that we're not staying in that low vibrational state of fear and anger and hurt and resentment, and bring ourselves back up to a higher vibrational state, which is love, joy, light, happiness.
Absolutely.
100%. What I will add to that is we have become very good at and very willing to integrate everything we learn. So there's a big difference between knowing all this stuff and actually embodying it and living and breathing it. And that I feel like massive. It's where a lot of people come undone and get stuck. It's like, I know all these things and this and that, but I'm feeling like I'm downward spiraling and I cannot get out of this. And what I will always come back to is the body. The body knows. The body knows, and the body never forgets. And so I think a big one for us, especially this year, is self-expression, understanding how important it is to take our body with us in terms of the healing process, being able to pivot quicker and process the emotion up and out through us and move on. And so Tay touched on, the low vibe feelings and emotions of shame, right? It's the lowest vibing emotions, lowest frequency. In order to transmute that, you have to express it. Part of that is speaking your truth, speaking your shame. It can't survive. It thrives on you being silent. So speaking your shame, literally getting primitive, like back to primal shit, like primal screaming, hitting like a freaking pillow in like raging, like punching a punching bag, like find a way that works for you that you can tap into and express these emotions in a healthy way, not an unhealthy way.
Yeah,
you also have to be around the right kind of people though to hold space for you and let you be in your
100%.
process and not judge you for whatever the fuck you want to do.
Exactly.
Even if you're like,
and stop judging yourself and labeling yourself a bad person because you're feeling negative emotions like anger and resentment and rage. Like allow yourself to feel those feelings. It's a normal part of the full spectrum of emotions, and you get to feel it all. Like it's I always say to my girls in my program, your shit gets to be here, your fucking anger gets to be here, your mess, it gets to be here. And it's the most, like, I've got goosebumps, it's the most powerful thing because you just let it all hang out. You get messy, you like you're wild woman in a sense, and men as well. It's allowed to be there, and my God, it's so liberating when you can just allow yourself to be and feel what you need to feel.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so much lighter after it. Like you've just been at a retreat the whole weekend, and we just had this conversation before, like how much lighter you feel because you've actually like allowed yourself to process and release those emotions that have been trapped inside of us. And it's liberating. Like that's how we really get to live in this world, like light, and not carrying around this heavy shit all the time, like carrying all this like weight and baggage of the world and other people's shit and family stuff. So
there's one thing that I realized from the weekend as well, it doesn't matter what you do, like if you can, like the shit that you have bottled up, in order for you to improve, you've got to get rid of it, hey? You've got to fucking release it somehow, like you said, in a place with safe space or whatever. But it's
the most
only
self-loving, life upgrading, shackle breaking thing you can do is face off with your shit. Go to the deepest, darkest place within you and look. Go there. Shine a light on it. I always say, like, there's so many sayings. Your pain is your power. Your mess is your message. But it sounds cliche, but it's so true. Like you have to go to those places within you in order to own that part of you, own that your story. Because nothing anyone can say about you can touch you.
Yeah,
you become bulletproof. Like your energy, and this is about like what we always say about fortifying your vibe, like being a fucking vibe. This is how you do it. You face off with your own shit, right? You go there again and again and again. You recognize when your inner child is like screaming at you, your wounded ego, and you're like, okay, yep, I see that, I see it all, and now how am I going to make a powerful choice with that awareness?
And I think, like you just said, once you face off with your own shame and the things that you feel guilty for, or the things that you don't want other people to know, and you actually speak it out and like just get it out there, like, and you do that over and over again. It's like, well, nothing anyone else says can touch me because I've already acknowledged that about myself.
Right.
Like I've already gone there. I know that about myself. I have the awareness. So like you're not telling me anything new. Like something new that pops up is not going to hurt me because I already know that about myself, and I've acknowledged it and I've processed it, and and
the more you do that, the more you dissolve and diffuse the emotional charge around that story and that the biggest, darkest, deepest secret about you. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool, I'm normal. Like I'm just like everybody else. Everyone's got their shit, right?
Exactly.
And I spoke that and I survived. Like I'm all good. And that's how you cultivate confidence. That's how you cultivate that trust and that backing of yourself and be like, hell yeah, like I can do this.
And you realize like we all have pretty much a lot of the same things in common. We all have demons. We all have struggles. We're all guilty of things. We all feel shame around, maybe the same things as well. So, no one is immune to these feelings. And when you actually get that out there, you also give permission for other people to do the same. Like, well, you know what? Actually, I feel like shit today too. Or like, actually, you know what? I'm holding a lot of guilt around, something that I did in the past. And like, it encourages other people to like, you know what? Actually, I do too. Like, and thanks for allowing me to, be called forward and hold that space for me and actually express it in that healthy way where I won't be judged. Because that's what we need more of. We need more people in a non-judgmental, like, perspective or point of view, and just hold space for people, because we are all in our shit. We've all got shit to deal with. No one is perfect.
And the way you do that is by facing off with your own stuff and having self-compassion and practicing self-compassion every single day. Because the more compassion you can give yourself, the more grace and compassion you can give and have for other people.
Yes.
So again,
radical responsibility.
Shit.
Radical
Thanks for coming on the
responsibility.
podcast. That's all my listeners can take for now. Geez, thank you for the introduction.
Was that just the intro?
Man, it's massive, and I think like the work that you women are doing is just absolutely amazing. And to hear all of this stuff, just like a tidal wave of just awesome information. Like I just think like now, obviously, all the listeners can see like what you've done in these last 5 years to get to where you are now, mentally, emotionally. I mean, you've surrounded yourself with beautiful people, families, and I think that's one crucial thing to maintaining your, being like standing in your power and just being this positive light, is making sure you have the right people around you at all times, and obviously any negative people, get them out of there.
Our friends say this a lot. Environment is everything, and you can't expect to get better in a sick environment. Like you can't expect anything to change in the same environment. So like things like men's medicine, which you're a part of, and the events that we run, like you actually have to put yourself out there and like go to these things and like take that leap of faith and
invest in yourself.
Yeah, it might feel scary, or like join a program. Like it might feel scary at the time, but like that's, if you really want things to shift and change in your life, in many, many ways, like you've got to put yourself out there and go to these things and realize that no matter what, you're going to be in a safe container, and there are people that are going to hold you and love on you even when you're in your mess. It is really about, like, again, coming back to responsibility and holding yourself accountable and saying, you know what, actually, if I want to break up with my bullshit, which is what Stevie's program is, like I've actually got to put myself into environments where that's going to help me level up. I can't just sit in home and like sit behind my screen and like, click all these beautiful posts and double tap the quote of the day,
the affirmation, the meme.
Yeah, but not
that's
actually
change
physically get yourself out there and do something about it. Like you've got to take action.
Yeah, if nothing happens, right?
Exactly.
So you've got to take that first step, and you're right, put yourself out there.
And also, if you're at a point where you need to change your story, that bullshit story, you need to go out there and create evidence and find new reference points to reinforce a new story and a new belief, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So an example for me, just on the weekend, we went up and celebrated men's medicine. We were together with the Christmas party. This belief that I've worked on, which has come from childhood trauma and intergenerational stuff of not being able to trust the world and trust men in particular, I knew and I know that I have to consciously make choices, consistent choices that are going to create reference points and new evidence to back up and reinforce a new story of I can trust men. Men are beautiful. Fly my ass up to the Gold Coast and be around beautiful masculine energy and men who just see us and hold us, and use that as a new reference point and new evidence to reinforce this new story, and stop putting time and energy into that old shitty belief. And that's how you reprogram and like create new neural pathways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like change those stories day by day,
Yes.
choice by choice.
Yep.
In action, integration is so important. And that's where we always are focusing our energy on, is the embodiment piece. Embody. Walk your freaking talk. Invest in yourself. Put yourself in these spaces, in these environments, in these programs to change the quality of your life.
Yeah.
Stop complaining about the same thing. If you're not going to choose something different, if you're complaining about something and you're not doing anything about it, you're choosing that.
Yeah.
So just own that. Get really honest with yourself. And then again, with that awareness, how can you make a powerful choice from that place? And yeah, just for us, it's always about getting ourselves in the room, being in the game, going first. Like we always say, if not now, if not us, then who? If not now, when? Like seriously, this isn't your rehearsal life. Like why are you wasting?
Just can you have one life?
Yeah, like
I can make an
stop
impact.
missing the point. Stop wasting your time. Actually do what you need to do to live the life you say you want to live, right?
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you said there is women not trusting men because they've been getting the evidence from one place over and over and over again.
Just buying into this story.
Yes. Yep. Movies and fucking...
And playing the victim.
Yeah.
Playing the victim. This is where we need to call ourselves out. Stop buying into this story and creating this victim mentality to keep yourself stuck, because you're addicted to this story. You're addicted to the attention you get. You're addicted to being the victim. Like, yeah, we can, and I'm glad we're kind of like segueing to this about, women and men, because I know relationships is something you wanted to touch on. But that's been a huge thing for me. And it hasn't been just this story that I created out of thin air. It's been born from a lot of childhood trauma, and also the stories my mum experienced, and my nan and my grandnan. That's why I say this is intergenerational trauma. It's a real thing, and it also, like, it doesn't start with us, but it can stop with us. Like, and I'm so determined to not pass that story on to my beautiful daughter. And also the story of like, I'm not safe in this world. I'm not safe to be seen. I'm not, so that's a massive thing for me that I'm like calling like, yeah, time out. Like not anymore. Not on my watch.
Yeah. We've heard so many of those stories that it runs in the family, like, fucking negative things like that. Like from now on, this is where it fucking stops in the running in the family.
Hell yeah.
So, fuck, that's massive. That's huge. Shit, I've kind of just lost my train of thought, but like,
what do you want to talk about, Lewis?
Oh, okay.
What's hot on your heart? Give him 5 minutes to get a question in, because you're just like...
No, this is awesome. Like, it's just off the cuff kind of stuff. I came here with a plan, but I'm like, fuck the plan.
What does your intuition say?
I really wanted to talk about, like relationships and one of the things, obviously this is an empowerment podcast, but I just wanted to know how you empower your men, and how... I guess let's just start off with that, because, I mean, there's the saying that I believe in is, where there's a strong man, there's always a strong woman standing beside him, and so obviously, like, I know both of your husbands quite well, and was blessed to connect with Joel on the weekend, but I just know that they are men that know what they want to do in this life. They're men who not once have I ever heard them even say anything negative about their families. You women, like they are seriously in love with you. Like, man, like they'll defend you. Like, I was talking to Joel in the van on the way somewhere in the retreat, and he was just telling us how you're such a beautiful person. So yeah. So anyway, it was just powerful. So, I mean, there's a lot of men listening out there, and honestly, there's a lot of women that listen to this podcast as well. And I think, just to kind of get an insight as to, how you have created these amazing relationships with your husband. And,
For us, my relationship, the marriage that I have with my husband, all of this started, honestly, when we started to get really healthy. Like when we actually started to focus on our gut health, because our gut is connected to our mental health.
Absolutely.
And so when we actually started to clear out that toxicity in our gut, we actually could think clearly, and we could, we felt better, and our moods were brighter. And that's really honestly where it started. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my husband. We've always, been in love with each other, but we've had some rocky times. Like it's not always been this smooth sailing. Like we had some real toxic habits that we needed to shift. Thankfully, we've done that. But the starting point for us was when we actually got honest with our health and really started to dive into holistic health and cleanse our gut and, minimize all of the toxins in our home, and doing everything that we could to really get ourselves healthy, because then we could start to think clearly, and we had a different kind of awareness. And then we started to digest different information in the form of like documentaries and YouTube videos and books and things like that. And so that's where our journey started. So I always encourage, people on this journey to really, like, if you want someone to start, maybe look at starting there, like start at actually like getting healthy together, doing it as a team. But then from then on, obviously, like, that's been 5-6 years now, and so much more has happened. But like, honestly, for us, like this year has really been such a powerful year in marriage for both of us, because my husband is also committed to the work. He's also committed at, being the best version of himself, and putting himself in environments like Men's Medicine and the Bridge and Extreme, where he has to actually face off with his fucking shit and level up, like really go there. So
you can tell.
Yeah,
the last 3 months, he's just
gone next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
But innately, he's always been such a beautiful human being. He's always been so caring, so loving, like so generous, so giving of his time. He's always in the community doing a lot of work with Pacific youth. But I will say, like it hasn't always been easy. And even just being in a conscious partnership isn't easy, because like you literally have someone calling you out on your shit 24/7. Like honestly, it's like a walking like fucking mirror. Like he's like, babe, you want to look at that? Like, you want to look at that? Like you're on your phone again. Like if for him, it's like me, like too much on my phone while I'm up. He's like, babe, like always pulling me up. I'm like, can you just shut up sometimes? Like yesterday, babe, why are you self-sabotaging?
Right now.
But then on the flip side, I'm like, babe, you want to look at that? Like you need to address that. Like that's not, like what's going on here, because, one thing that comes up or did come up a few months before, like the last 3 months has just been a whirlwind. But the one thing that does come up with my husband, especially when he's around his younger brother, is like making him feel like shameful about something, like, oh, like you're so messy, or like, why don't you have your driver's license? And I also think it's also a Polynesian thing too. Like we're always like making fun of each other or bagging each other out. And what that does is it constantly is like making the other person on the receiving end feel shame, like, oh, shame, like I don't have my license yet, or shame that like I just don't have my shit together. And like that's not what we should be doing to each other. If we really want to call each other forward, we can't be like
empower one another.
Yeah, keeping them in that low vibrational state. Shame is the lowest vibrational emotion. And so, I used to call my husband out and say, look, you can't like stop doing that, because that is not healthy, and it's not productive if you really want to call your brother forward and get him to really, see things in a different light. So I used to always say that to him, like, babes, we're always like pointing to each other and like just helping each other. We'll look at things that we need to address, like that we're not like, willing to really go there, like, oh, okay, I really need to look at that. And it's not easy, but it's a beautiful experience. And, I love being in a marriage where we're so like conscious of a lot of things, because it only helps us grow and evolve and level up. And there is nowhere to hide. That's the other thing. Like you can't hide when someone's like looking at you like, babe, like we have the awareness now, like, why are you still doing that? Like you might want to look at that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And the worst thing you want to be doing is wearing a fucking mask in your relationship with someone that you live with, your marriage, you don't want to be having to hide anything. You want to be able to live freely and have no guilt, shame, whatever, and be able to, be confident that you can share whatever you need to share with the person that you're closest with. So no, it's absolutely, that's huge.
I think for me and my marriage with Joel, the things that I've learned in terms of empowering one another and supporting one another and truly having each other's back is to make each other feel really safe and really seen and not shame one another. I'm so guilty of constantly being on my like high horse about so many things. I mean, like, hurry up and get on my page, and like shaming my husband for never being enough in so many ways, never being healthy enough, conscious enough, woke enough, a good enough, present enough, you know, the list goes on. And so it just does so much more damage than good, and it creates so much more of a divide. And when, you know, you do things with the intent of love and coming from a good place, but the delivery is where we can get it so wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm so guilty of like always saying it wrong a lot of times. But I put my hand up and I own that. So for me with Joel, he has come leaps and bounds and so much further along, quicker than ever before, when I've literally just known that in order to help him, help our relationship, and as parents, all I have to do is just hold a safe space for him and allow him to be seen and heard and listen, like actually listen, and not coach him. Like, and this is the tendency I have a lot. And he's like, stop coaching me. It's such a turn off. It's so unsexy, like when you're trying to, you coach your partner or your mother, your husband, right? It's the most unsexiest thing. So for me, it's like, okay, Stevie, like I'm doing that again. Like just be love, hold a safe space. That's all I need to do. Stop taking on the role and job of I've got to help him sort his shit out and be empowered and, you know, live a healthy life. Like it's not my job. And so stop taking on that responsibility and just allow him to be and have his own journey, like go on his own path at his own pace. It's not on my timeline. It's not on me to decide what he should and shouldn't be doing. So just respecting and honoring that
I feel
will help a lot.
It comes back to intuition as well, because obviously females, we are more intuitive beings. And I feel like one way that I empower my husband and call him forward is just like help him come back to his intuition. Like what's his actual truth and what do you want in this now moment right now? Because my husband used to be, and still it pops up. And so like me as well, like we have people pleasing tendencies, like, but my husband big time had a people pleaser mask on. And so for me to call him forward and really empower him in his own truth, it's like, babe, what is your intuition telling you? Like, what do you actually want right now, regardless of what everyone else wants you to do or wants you to say, wants you to think, what do you want to do? And come back to that and really get them to tap into their intuition. Because a lot of the time, you know, they're in their masculine, like do, go, you know, carrying a heavy weight of pressure and, you know, this responsibility. And it's like, it can sort of like disconnect you a little bit from your center and your truth sometimes and your intuition. So for me as a wife to my beautiful husband, one of the ways that I call him forward and step into his leadership and, you know, help him be empowered is really bringing him back to, okay, what's your intuition saying? Like, what is your truth? You know, like coming back to your center and what do you actually want to choose in this moment and not what everyone else wants you to choose.
Yeah, hell yeah. I say to Joel all the time now, what is your gut telling you, especially in business? He runs his own business. But in a lot of ways, I say, okay, babe, what's your gut telling you? What's it? Not like, here's what I think you should do. It's like, what's your gut telling you? And also like, now he speaks to me like, babe, I'm an energetic no to that. Like, and that's it. Like, or I'm an energetic yes. And when he says that, I'm like, okay, sweet. I don't need an explanation. He doesn't have to justify. I just honor, okay, I get it. Like, and I'm glad, like, he's like checking in with himself first before saying a yes or saying a no. So he's like, no, I'm energetic no. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool.
It's so funny how we talk now that we've got the language behind us. Like, no, I'm an energetic no, babe. Like my soul is not saying, like, what's your soul saying right now? Or just so many different things that we say now, and like, you know, how we speak to each other and like how we hold space, how we hold each other accountable and call each other forward.
And just asking them questions for them to, check in with yourself. Like, what? How do I feel? What is my body trying to tell me? How can I honor that and make choices in alignment and in integrity, not from obligation and, I've got to, you know, be everything.
And also there's one last thing that we should speak to, and it's actually acknowledging our men for all of the good things that they're doing, because it's so easy, you know, just be like, oh, well, you know, you're not present enough, or you're never with the kids, or you're never home. Like, this is one story that I bought into. It's like, I felt like a single mum most of the time that we've had our babies, because my husband's either traveling, training, or playing. Like, he's never really there in season. And, you know, a lot of the time I'm like, well, you know, I do it all basically. Like, you know, what are you doing? Like, let's not battle like who's got it harder, because I'm with the kids 24/7. My job never ends. You get to clock off at like 5 o'clock and I don't. And so
you're wearing the martyr mask?
Yeah, I'm wearing the martyr mask. I'm not anymore. But it's so easy to just be like, oh, pick on all the things that they're not doing. But let's actually acknowledge our men for all of the fucking amazing things that you guys are doing, because we don't acknowledge you men enough, especially I feel like in relationship. So actually taking that time to sit down face to face when you're hopefully not with the kids, because there's a lot of distractions, but actually take the time out for each other to sit and eye gaze even, and just like, I want to acknowledge you for blah, 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 all of the things, whatever that may be, and just let our men actually receive that acknowledgement. Like, it gives me goosebumps now, because our men need that just as much as we need compliments or, you know, confirmation of how, you know, we look and how we're feeling or whatever it may be. Our men also need to be acknowledged too. Like, they need that just as much. And I think that's a big part of, you know, men's empowerment is actually being acknowledged for all of the amazing things that men do time and time and time again, not just for their families, but for their partners and for themselves and, you know, for the greater good as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that pops up it's coming up for me at the moment, exactly what you just said. And I guess now being on this journey, like especially with Trin, and, you know, knowing that I can make choices and not have to make a decision based on obligation or all these outside factors. I can just be like, what do I feel like doing at this current moment in time? What do I feel like doing? What is my gut saying? What is my heart saying? And then not be judged. And just to have that mental freedom and just know that, you know, what I actually feel like, you know, what do I feel like doing right now? Do I say yes and be that people pleaser? Or right now, do I say no and do what I feel is right and then be happy? You know, so I feel like when there is that understanding between, you know, husband and wife, like just so much good can come from that. And then obviously that then precipitates down to your kids and, you know, you're just how happy you are at home and, you know, you're not just doing dishes. You're like, fuck this, you know.
You know what it comes down to? Choosing yourself.
Absolutely. Yep.
Choosing yourself, being brave enough to choose yourself, and honoring and respecting and encouraging that in your partner too. So Joel and I, we know we need our alone time. We need our self-care things. They look very different. Joel's is going for a long ride on his motorbike. That's self-care for him. That's moving meditation. Whereas me, I'm like, you know, float therapy, colonic, whatever. But it's about choosing yourself and being the example for your children and changing the narrative with the example of your life so they can grow up and choose themselves too, and not wear the mask of being a martyr, the mask of being a people pleaser, placing their value in always helping other people. And when I help other people, I'm of value in this world and I'm important and I'm needed. So that's the story. That's the programming that we need to be focusing on and be leading by example from that place. So choosing yourself is huge.
And being super clear with it too, because like you know, I did martyr myself heaps. Like, that's like a old story that I've only recently just left behind. And Steve used to always say, like, stop martyring yourself. But for me,
I had so shitty because she never left her kids.
Yeah.
Like, she never left her kids. The first time she left her kids was at the Bridge Experience, and I literally tore her child away from her, and I went and breastfed Hendrix so she would leave her children. I was like, enough is enough. And sometimes you need those people just being like, calling you forward and just pattern disrupting the shit, like intervention styles. But
you also, coming back to what you know, choosing yourself first, you need to be clear in that too, because like I used to let things slide, like, oh, it's okay, I won't have time for myself because I want to, you know, have time with the family or whatever. And I say to my husband very clearly now, and he gets it, like, babe, I'm a better mum when I have a break and I need to book something in, or I need to do this, or I need to go for a walk for an hour by myself. And when I say that clearly and like, babe, I need this right now, like for my mental well-being. And he's like, yeah, you go do that, babe. And I think, you know, you really being firm in that also encourages them like, okay, well, like they respect themselves, they're honoring themselves right now, and then also I get to do that for myself as well. So my husband will take time out and I'm like, yep, you go babe, you do that because I know you need your time out too. We all need to fill our own cups up first, and it's about really being clear about that, and just encouraging each other to do the same thing, like, and not holding it against them like, oh, well, you've had all the self-time, like all the self-care time this week and I've had nothing. Like, say, look, babe, like, yep, love that you filled your cup up, but now I need to do mine as well now. So like,
well, putting yourself
you respect
first,
and honor that.
I guess just so the listeners understand, like putting yourself first, actually, you're doing that because you want to be better for others. So it's kind of, you want to be able to fill your own cup up so you can fill the cups of others.
Just be a better human being. I feel like.
You're a much better version of yourself when you're giving to yourself first. It's not a selfish thing. Like, I'm so sick of this whole, martyring ourselves in the name of motherhood, in parenthood, like
guilty,
wearing business as a badge of honor, over giving. It's just not a noble thing to do anymore.
And it's actually doing a disservice to your family and a disservice to your children. And that's what I really it hit home for me. Like,
because they all get shitty, half-assed, flaky versions of you when you do that.
I'm like, my kids cannot think that this is how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like this. And how are my kids ever going to be able to know to wholeheartedly choose themselves if they see a mother who's constantly martyring themselves for everyone else and like putting herself last? Like, that's just not the example that I want to lead for and set for my babies. So
and we always say, like,
that's
do you
done now for me.
Survive or thrive? Like, that is not thriving. That's not a lifestyle. Like, they're not choices conducive to a lifestyle of thriving. That's surviving and getting through. And it's not a great example of, again, quality of life. Like, what quality of life?
Bringing back to the men, I feel like men can do this a lot in terms of their work. Like, it's like, we see it in my dad all the time. My dad's our dad's honestly like, no, I've just got to do this next quote, or I've work. And he doesn't have life outside of work. And it's like, well, Dad, we actually just want to spend time with you. Like, you don't need to like earn all this money. Like, we're okay. Like, everything will be fine. Like, if you just take a day or two off, like your business will be fine. And it's just like martyring ourselves again. Like, no, I've got to go to work and I've got to earn this much money and I've got to pay this like such and such. And it's actually like, well, you know what? The most important thing right now is like family.
Presence.
And presence. So
with men especially, the story of men want to provide and be the provider.
Yes. Yep.
So I get it, but at what cost as well is the next question. So presence is huge, and it's something that I'm always tapping, practicing, forgetting, remembering, forgetting. Presence.
100%, man. And what you just said, that was a massive mic drop for me, and I resonate with that 100%. Like, martyring yourself, and there's something that I've been doing for who knows how long now, and that's kind of the reason why I went on a social media break and just stopped everything for about a month, and kind of just went back to like the primal roots of it. Like, what am I doing? Like, what actually matters to me? And so I have made the connections that are meaningful to me now, and I'm actually like in the space where I feel like that my marriage with Trin is in the best place it's ever been at the moment, you know. So I know it's real good. And just being surrounded with people like yourself and men's medicine, and just doing the work and putting myself first has been so huge.
Being committed to that work for each other as well. And I feel like no one has it easy. Like, we've all been through the darkest of dark times in our relationships, but because we're so committed to the work, now we get to be on the other side of that and like, wow, like this is how good it's supposed, like this is how beautiful it gets to feel and is supposed to feel. And like, I just want to acknowledge you and Trin, because I know you guys have done a lot of work. Like, you've both been through the ringer, and you've hung in there, and you're committed to each other, you're committed to the work, and committed to your kids. And it's just been a beautiful thing to witness, because no one's journey is perfect. Everyone goes through their ups and downs. And when you come out of the other side of that, like, it's like, it's such a beautiful space to be in. And I feel the exact same way in my marriage. Like, it's the best it's ever been. And we've been together for a very long time. And I'm like, it's only getting better. It's like, it gets to be exciting like that. It shouldn't fizzle out and like the flame, like burn, die down. Like, it should get better and better each year. And that's thanks to the fact that we are committed to the work and leveling up and being the best versions of ourselves.
Thanks for the
and
acknowledgement.
choosing ourselves
I appreciate
first.
it. Yeah, thanks for the acknowledgement. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Like, yeah, I guess you answered the other question I was going to ask is how do you keep the flame blazing, obviously. Like everything we've been speaking about is just, that's how you do it.
Choosing yourself first is how you keep the flame
Choosing
blazing. Honestly, for me, it's like putting myself
Yeah,
first.
100%.
Yeah.
The more that I put myself first, the more I'm like fired up and like feel sexy for my man and want to give to him and like, you know, take care of him when my cup is so full and overflowing when I choose myself first.
Ooh, yeah.
So it seems so counterintuitive, like put yourself first so you can keep the flame blazing for your relationship. But it sounds like that if you don't know, if you're not on the same page as us, I guess like if you're not doing it, then you don't understand it. So
yeah, because societal conditioning is like we've got to give everything over to the man or the partner or the family,
And
everything.
Placing our happiness in each other.
Yeah.
Your happiness is your
my
responsibility.
responsibility, exactly
It's
right.
not Trin's responsibility. And like it's, again, taking radical responsibility and ownership of that. Like stop putting your happiness and everything else in other people's hands. Like same goes for your freaking health. Like stop making everyone else your guru. You're your own guru, you know? So it's massively about responsibility. The other thing I did want to say was, again, how important facing off with your own shit is. I read this quote in this book I'm reading at the moment, which is, it didn't start with you. It's all about intergenerational trauma and shame, but it's the distance that you keep between you and your pain and your unattended wounds is the same distance between your partner. So let that land, right?
Boom.
So for me, sexuality massively, like embracing my own sexuality and my relationship with my body, that has been such a journey and work that I'm continually in. And the more that I go even further into that and really face off with the shame and all the stuff that I've been suppressing and hiding for so long, the more my relationship is just on fire and the quality of our sex life and our conversation is just like, holy shit, because I'm really going to those places within myself where I'm like, you know what, I get to take back my power. Pleasure is my birthright, you know, like all of these things that I thought made me a bad, dirty, evil person, or, you know, the stories that we always make up and we've been programmed by society to believe. So not true. And that's, you know, all of that work is just honestly like our relationship has exploded because of it, because I'm taking ownership and choosing myself and really going there and facing off with my shit. And yeah, like your husband gets to like, you know, enjoy the fruits of your labor, and so does your children as well.
Yeah.
Like make time for each other, because so often when we have kids, it's so easy to like put the date nights on the back burner. Like, oh, I'm too tired. Like I'm guilty of it. I put heaps of date nights on the back burner because I'm fucking exhausted. But is that serving your relationship and is going to keep the spark alive? No, the spark is going to go out pretty quickly if you guys are like not making the time. Like the grass is greener where you water it. So make the freaking time for each other. Literally, if you have to book it into your calendar every single week and like lock out a time and book in the babysitter and like get your shit organized, you have to do that and actually make the time and you know, do, you know, exciting things. Like don't just keep it the same old movies and dinner. Like, I don't know, play some golf or freaking go out to a bloody nightclub like you used to back in the day and like have a couple of drinks, you know, like
and don't just talk about your children on these dates. Like talk about this other things.
Like, and even what you could do is like write out, like we did like little love ceremonies, like, you know, with our partners, but you can write out like a whole list of like what you're grateful for, like what you acknowledge each other for, what your intention is for the night. Like literally have it out on a piece of paper, and then when you're at dinner or wherever you are, if you're at a picnic or a nature walk, like sit down and go through that list, like have a plan or like prepare for it and actually set a really beautiful intention and get the most out of those few hours that you have together, because that's what's going to like keep that spark alive and connect you back together and, you know, not feel so like disconnected from each other because life's getting in the way and the kids are getting in the way and all the things are getting in the way. Like you actually have to make the time and water your own grass. Like the grass is greener where you water it.
And I want to add, fact check your stories. So Joel and I, we have to fact check each other's stories now, because we can run away with stories and make up these, you know, these big fat bullshit stories about each other and what that meant about, you know, like, you don't care about me because you did this. So we always come back to each other, and thanks to Brene Brown's work, we always say like, the story I'm telling myself is this and blah, blah, blah. Because when we don't have all the information as human beings, we're making machines. We just insert our own information and data. So we're forever fact checking each other's stories, and you've got to set aside the time to do that. So that might be a good idea. Be like, hey babe, you know, last week when you said this, it really made me feel like that, and I want to like, and that, again, the vulnerability piece, like say, this is how it made me feel. This is the story I made up about it. Like, what did you really mean? And often it's always never like, I have this conversation. It's never what you think it is. Like, you know, the way you receive it is never what the intention was. And then you go away with this big bullshit story like, oh, he doesn't care. He's an asshole. You know, and it's like, no, we got to come back to each other. And Joel and I always say, come back to me, come back to me, come back to each other, lean in. Again, lean in, just the willingness to constantly lean in, not tap out and be like, fuck you, silent treatment, see you later. So yeah, that's another thing as well.
Wow. Unpacking it all. Shit, where do I start? That's massive, and I do resonate with what you were saying about date nights and everything like that, because I know a lot of, like, for us, I mean, trying to, like, we kind of put obstacles in the way, and which become the excuse to not go ahead with them, like trying to find a babysitter, and you know, it's too much trouble, then it's worth, so we're not even going to give it a go, and then relationships start suffering 2-3 months down the line. So that's why going to the Gold Coast and being there with Trin was just massive for us. It was huge.
It was so nice to see you up there together, just you two. Like,
it was massive, because like it was probably the first time, or the furthest that we've been away from our son, and like exactly everything that you just said just popped up, just how it refreshes the relationship, and you've just got how important it is to stay in those, what do they call them, the golden days or something like that. What do they call them?
Honeymoon
phase. I don't know. New Zealand, Australian lingo, I guess.
Never stop dating each other. Like,
100%.
Also, that's saying, like, if you don't want your relationship to fizzle out or die, then do whatever you did at the start of the relationship. Yep. Like, keep it fresh and juicy and sexy and alive. And like, you guys having that time away from Jaden, literally in a different state. Yep. So you couldn't think about it like, oh, I'm just going to run and, like, you know, drive home and get in. Like, you physically couldn't. You had to just be with each other. And like, how beautiful is that? Like, you guys probably haven't been like that in, you know, before Jaden was even born, like, you know, having that actual time together where you're like, oh wow, this is nice. We don't have to worry about like running after our bloody kid who's gone off and like run off over some different park. Like, I know how that feels. I've got 2 boys, they're very energetic and like I'm constantly chasing after them. But where I've done that myself, like the past few weekends, I've literally left them both with my parents. You know, unfortunately my husband's not even here in this country to enjoy that time with him. But for myself, like, it's been like transformational, like just getting a good night's sleep one night a week and having the time to just lie on the bed and not be kicked in the face by my kids. Like, it's transformational for me, because I'm like, no one's touching me. Like, I can just relax. And, you know, you need that time away, and you actually have to, you know, not just keep brushing off like it's not important, because it's probably the most important thing you can do to stay connected to your partner and, you know, really have that beautiful marriage and relationship so that your kids can see what it's like to be in a beautiful, conscious marriage where you actually are in love and you're so into each other and, like, you know, you're obsessed with each other, not just, oh, mum and dad are together just because kind of thing, or they're just trying to make it work because of the kids, right? Like, there's no substance to that and no intention. Like you see that play out all the time, because our parents were raising us in a time where, like, a lot of our parents struggled. Like, they really struggled and they had to work hard to pay their bills and survive. And so you can see why the disconnect between the marriages sort of, like, you know, just fizzled out, and they only stayed in the relationship because of the kids, because they just unfortunately didn't make enough time for each other. But yeah, the more that we do that, the more that, again, we encourage other people to do it, like our parents to do it, and say, look, you actually have to put time into your relationship and not just to be okay with the fact that we're just living in the same house. Like, you've actually got to go spend time with each other and put the effort in and acknowledge each other and, you know, really love on each other. Yeah, because there's a common misconception, like just what you said, you know, just because you put a ring on it doesn't mean that it's the end. Yeah. You know, that's doesn't mean stop trying.
That's all you got to do. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I guess something I'd wanted to talk about. So now we've spoken about how women can empower men. How can men empower women? Like, I know we've spoken about some generic things, and things that will work for both. But I know that there's some specific juicy things that I know that a lot of our male listeners out there will want to hear. You know, how can they do that?
I love this.
I would say let your woman be too much and embrace her too muchness. I think for me, the most powerful thing that happened for Joel and I this year, we went to the bridge and I was having a real moment, an episode, and I was just so wild and messy, and my body, I couldn't control it, the emotion that was pouring out of me, and Joel witnessed all of that. And I was so afraid of being messy in front of him, of him really seeing me. I don't know why, because it's only brought our connection so much more closer and deeper. But I would encourage men to just let women be messy and wild and too much and just the force of nature that we are, and weather their storms and handle their heat, and be that beautiful masculine energy that wraps around the feminine energy and just hold that safe space. So I think for a lot of women, we fear being too much, and we've been conditioned to not take up space, be quiet, you know, be the good wife, be the good, you know, girl. So just encourage her to play all out and just, like have fun with it, like hold safe space for her to really get into that too muchness and just watch her come alive and everything like flow on from that.
For me, what my husband does is he just sees me. Like he just sees me again in all my mess and all my glory. He doesn't judge me for it. He loves me in a way that I feel free to be myself. I don't feel like I have to put on this mask for him. I can literally just, get messy, get wild, be me. And he just sees me and loves me and holds space to that and doesn't judge me, doesn't make up a story about me, just lets me go, and knows that no matter what, like, you know, seeing a woman in her true authentic power is the fucking sexiest thing you can ever see for like in your partner, basically. Like for me, what Frank has said, you know, in terms of our own marriage is like, the more that I step into my power and fucking own my worth and just be so authentic and just wild, that's such a turn on for him.
Oh yeah.
So he's going to encourage that he's going to encourage that out of me and be like, baby, you go for it. Like, I'm just going to see you for all you are. And I'm just going to like, fuck yeah. You know, no matter what that looks like for anybody, you know, all different people. And he just lets me be, like he just lets me go. And that's the best thing that for me that I could have in a partner and a husband is just someone that's not trying to fit me into this little box or like tell me, no, you shouldn't do that or you're too much or, you know, stay quiet because you don't want people to judge you. He's like, no, if I can get loud, say whatever you want to say, like be who you want to be and do what you want to do because that's sexy. The more that you are you and you know, embracing it and really owning your queendom, like that's the sexiest thing ever. Like that's a vibe right there. Like that's a different type of energy. And you don't even have to be the hottest person in the room. No. Like if you've got that kind of vibe where you know who you are and like, you know, what you bring to the table, that's fucking damn, that's sexy. Yeah. Like we know what we bring to the table and I'm gonna like, bring it, baby.
Eating that shit up for breakfast.
Like that's massive as well. Just so like what I'm getting from that is no judgment. And I feel like there's some social conditioning to some men like that, you know, women have to be put in this little box and you can't do that. You're being too much there. But it's really just their insecurities.
Yeah.
You know,
the same way men feel like they're never enough is the same feeling women feel when they're called too much. So just catch that and see how that's playing out in the subtlest ways in your relationship and your everyday life and and the words you say and how you say it and how, you know, how you judge and shame each other. Just catch it. If you can catch it, awareness is everything because awareness precedes choice. So
massive.
I feel like this is such a juicy podcast episode.
Oh my goodness. My mind's blowing and I'm just like, shit, what do we talk about next? But like, no, that's massive. And I think a lot of people, like all I'm thinking about is the stories and what I've heard and all those, like for me, my intergenerational trauma or the issues that have popped up and, you know, just because that's what we've seen, that's all we know, you know? So, I mean, these last, I would say 6 months has just been huge,
You are creating a new normal, a new narrative
Absolutely.
with the example of your life, and that is never to be underestimated. And Jaden, like I get chills. Like he's going to be so proud of you two, his parents, just to see what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship, like what that actually looks like and what it takes from both parties.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are being the example and showing up first and doing it, like, you know, going first. It's so powerful. And the seeds you're planting and the energetics of that, like he's benefiting so much more than any of us even know, because they're energetically so sensitive, and we're imprinting them right now. You know, they don't necessarily have the memories to store and remember, but they have the imprint of how they felt. How they felt is everything. It's so important because, you know, we are energy, right?
Yeah, I think when two individuals step into their power and then they bring that together, like that's freaking magic. And again, it's like not like, you know, I'm not responsible for making my husband happy. Like that's his responsibility, and he's like vice versa. He's not responsible for making me happy. And when we actually own that, acknowledge that within ourselves and really claim it and step into our power and like take full radical responsibility, and then bring that together in a partnership, that's like, like that's a freaking power couple, #power couple right there.
And what I also want to add is, which is something I've been thinking of lately, stop making each other your everything. Stop making your kids your everything. Don't give them that job.
Yeah.
Don't make them think, I'm everything for my mummy and daddy, so I got to do all this to make them happy. And forget how I really feel. Like as long as I am helped, like, you know, then and I receive their love in return from that. Like it's a dangerous game to play when you're making your partner, she's my world, she's my everything. I do anything for her, same as your children. Like don't put that pressure and that responsibility on them. That's not their shit to like, that's not their responsibility. So be your own everything.
Yeah, 100%. Shit. All good? You all right? Technical difficulties here. They do happen. Man, that is so huge. I guess what's coming up for both of you in the near future? I know you've got something launching in Feb 2020.
Yes, my February intake of Break Up With Your Bullshit 12-week online program. It's my baby. It's my jam. We touch on 6 topics, universal pain points for every woman. And I've already got 6 women signed up. I will be opening the doors of that intake in the next couple of weeks. And then I am off to Bali. I'm moving to Bali with my baby and my husband.
Beautiful.
Which I'm so excited about. Changing up the environment, changing up the energy.
Absolutely.
Really like stretching and expanding into more of what is possible for us and what we can actually hold, and the abundance we're calling in, and the spaciousness that we feel in our everyday lives. Really stretching that and testing that. So I'm very excited about that. Taylor and I have got a retreat that has always been a goal of ours in the works from the very get-go beginning, and next year will be the year that we launch our first ones, and then probably another event next year. But Tay's going to France, I'm going to Bali, so the in-person events will be a little bit less.
As much. But we're working on an online program together as well.
I was gonna say, do you want to announce?
Yes, it is coming, an online program together. But in terms of what I'm doing with my business is I also have an online program, which is an 8-week online program called Liberate Her. And you get access to a doctor, a chiropractor, a naturopath, a nutritionist, a midwife. And it's basically giving you all of the information, all the tools and resources that you need to have a fully empowered, informed pregnancy, birth experience, and beyond that, raising your kids as well. So if you get onto my page, we're Stevie and Tay, but I've also got my own Tay's Way page. And I'm really passionate about my program because so many people ask me like, oh, I don't know how you got to where you are today. And I literally want to like give everyone my secret sauce. Like
100%.
I've packaged it up into 8 weeks. Everything that I did in the last 5 years, I packaged up into 8 weeks and like put it on a silver platter for women to come and learn and invest in themselves and really, not just in themselves, but in their families and their future kids to come as well. Because this is what it's about. It's actually taking back your power, and knowing how to make truly informed choices when it comes to, preconception care, pregnancy, birth, and beyond. I'm really passionate about that because we as mums have the power to impact not only our kids but the next children to come. So 2 generations to come, we have the power to impact their health. So yeah, I'm really passionate about my Liberate Her program, and the intake is open now. We start in January 2020. So yeah, I would love to get some more women into that because I know the leaders that I'm calling forward are literally going to change the game for a lot, just not in their home, but also in their community as well.
Damn, 5-6 years ago, would you have pictured yourselves where you are now?
No way.
no.
Coming up with programs, 8-week programs.
Who is that?
The trees.
Taylor? Who is that Taylor and Stevie?
Wellness Out West
Honestly,
workshops. Like,
I've come from
oh my goodness.
magazine, TV, had my breakthrough, quit, concreted with my dad, and so I could sort my shit out and actually start living my life and my soul's purpose. And now here we are. And I can honestly say, like, I've never felt more fulfilled and more like focused, like laser focused on, I know like what I'm here to do. I know what I'm here to do. I know who I'm here to guide and help. So yeah, I feel super, super lit up every day.
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm on my soul's mission and I can see clearly, laser focused. I know my why, and that's why we don't give up. Like, this is what we were brought here on earth to do. This is our mountains to move. And yeah, just super grateful that we've actually found that for ourselves. Because a lot of people go through life and then, on their deathbed and like, I didn't even live the life that I really wanted to live. Like, I, didn't even do all the things that I said that I wanted to do. And, we're just 30 this year and we've like definitely stepped into our power. We know what we're doing. We know what we want. And we've spent time to build the relationships in our own community where people trust us and they come to our events and they sign up to our programs. So yeah, like us 5 years ago, like even 10 years ago, no way. Like I was like, who the hell is like, I wouldn't even recognize myself right now.
Can I just also add, even our relationship has just forever just unfolded in the most beautiful way.
Yes.
Because even our own journey as sisters, like we've been through a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to like comparison and just a lot of toxicity. So we've healed so much of our own relationship. And I feel like it's a really powerful thing and very like permission giving for other women to just really support each other wholeheartedly and leave the competition like story behind us and start moving towards a story of collaboration and just genuine love and support for each other.
There's enough for everyone. Yes. Everyone's going to make it. And we've got to do it together. We can't do it alone. And we always say we're together when we do it. We're better when we do it together. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess just on touching what you're saying, how you know your why now. And it's only because you've done the work, you've gone through the shit times. You've taken the risks, and that, I guess, for our listeners that are trying to figure out, what's their purpose, what have they got to do, you've got to put yourself out there.
And don't be afraid of the awkward, messy in between part. Like that was the best part for me personally. When I left my job, I had it all planned out, right? My successful career, I was ticking all the boxes, I was producing in TV.
Saw your website.
And I left it all and I went and concreted with my dad. Yeah. And I really had to break up with my bullshit and call my ego out, and my ego hated it. It was cringing, like it was the biggest ego death ever. But I've never felt more happy and like genuinely joyful and present every day. And that was the best part, like the best testing ground for me to actually create space in my schedule and my life and stop being so responsible and having that take up all of my brain capacity and problem solving. And I just let myself be and just figure out, okay, so what is it that I actually want to do, or what do I like, and follow the trail and those breadcrumbs. Because a lot of people get stuck on, well, I don't even know who I am anymore, and I don't even know what I want. Like, question mark. Like, that's the scariest thing. Like, what do I even want? And a lot of people can't answer that. So just be willing to get in there, get messy, like get awkward, be in the in-between, and just be real.
You don't have to have it all figured out.
No.
There is nowhere to get to. Like, don't think it's going to be a perfect process, because it's not. And as long as you just trust those little gut, niggles, that intuition, those intuitive hits, keep going with those intuitive hits, because sooner or later, like, you follow those breadcrumbs and you're going to get to your mission and your purpose and your why, and you're going to find out what truly lights you up from the inside out. But you won't do that if you don't take risks, if you don't follow your intuition, if you don't actually put yourself out in different environments, if you don't actually start to take that leap of faith and invest in yourself and invest in a program and invest in a course or get to an event.
Enlist support. People who have been there, done that, and can show you the tools. And okay, like, this is tried and tested. And I think that's why people trust us a lot, because they know we've been through it. Like right now, currently, Taylor's taking more arrows than ever before. Yep. And it's heavy stuff, but it's only going to work out in her favor, because who else can you see out there who's doing what Taylor does? Like, people are going to be like drawn to that and be like, okay, whatever she's done, like, I know that's living proof of her. She's the embodiment of whatever she says she's about. That energetic marketing is real talk. Like, I'm going to go and seek her support and her advice, because I know she's been through it. So there's nothing more powerful than actually living what you say you're about and walking your talk, like we say.
And I also want to acknowledge you both for being amazing friends and just having a massive, huge influence on my family and myself and my wife, and just how we do things at home. And I know that I speak for so many people that are listening, and just being the powerful queens that you are. Like, I really appreciate it. And I mean, to be sisters and to be vibing on the same level, it's just, it's rare. It's actually quite rare to have on the same level. And
it's inspiring. And when you're around your people, like, you find your people, you just want to be around your people, right? So we're so grateful to have you guys in our lives too. And honestly, nothing is a coincidence. We're on each other's radars and in our journeys together for a reason. And the work that you're doing in this world too is very much needed. And I know that whoever's listening to this podcast is going to get something out of it, surely, some value out of it. And we just want to encourage people to really step into your power and your greatness. Like Stevie says, this isn't a rehearsal. You've got one life. Like, what do you actually want to do? Are you living your life for yourself, or are you living your life to please other people? Like, really sit with that. And if you don't want to live your life to please other people and fuck that people pleasing shit off, like, step into the truth of who you are and your power and be brave.
100%.
Be brave.
Be brave. Because if it's not now, then when?
Yes.
If not you, then who?
Exactly right. Say I am. I'm going to have to take a couple of days to unpack this podcast, man. I just I just want to really really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast.
Yes.
Where can we find you on social media?
At Stevie_and_Tay on Instagram. It's currently our favorite place to hang out. It's kind of been tested lately, actually, with all the blocking and deleting of people and comments. But stevieandtay.com.au is our website.
And my website is tayswaymovement.com.au, but you can also find me mostly on Instagram at tays_way_. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't really jam with Facebook. Like, that's not my vibe. But I just, I put my content on Facebook because I know people on Facebook don't necessarily have Instagram. But mostly you can find both of us on Instagram. We're always tagging each other, or always doing lives and whatever. So, hit us up. Find out what we're about. If we, interest you or spark something within you, we love calling in new people into our community who are like-minded and who are committed to this process of, being the best versions of ourselves.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
That's a wrap. Cool. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Much appreciated if you listen up to this point. What can I say? Like, Stevie and Tay are just powerful women, and they have not always been like this. They've put in the work required to level themselves up, and I know for a fact that the best is yet to come for them. But thanks anyway for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to show some love on the Empowered Men Podcast Instagram page. and leave a 5-star rating on the podcast platform that you're listening on. Much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.